Hi, this is Sean again. I'm back again with All Things Black. I have a new friend here.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, can you introduce yourself and
My
tell
name is
yourself if you want?
okay. Well, my name is Mike, and I'm currently a chef and a screenwriter. And Sean found me off of Instagram based on a post that I wrote about colorism.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, we're going to just go ahead right on into it. So, the first question is, what does the word colorism mean to you?
I guess the word colorism means you're basing, I guess, stereotypes or certain ideologies based on how someone looks.
Okay, all right. What do you believe are some examples of colorism?
Well, I guess the main example would be this whole light skin, dark skin thing in the Black community. That's like the most prevalent one. That's the one that gets everybody talking a lot and seems to bring out the good and the evil in people with their words and actions.
Okay. Why do you believe people have negative attitudes about dark skin? And why do you believe people have negative attitudes about light skin if you think they do? Hold on, I think
Uh,
we're breaking up. Oh, okay. Back.
oh, sorry. I don't
No,
know.
you're okay.
My Wi-Fi
It's okay.
just, I guess, reset itself. Yeah, you repeat that again?
Oh, why do you believe people have negative attitudes about dark skin? And why do you believe people have negative attitudes about light skin?
I think it's, well, like I said before, it's basically like their stereotypes or their mannerisms or how the world views them. Basically, well, mostly dark skinned people. I mean, they get a bad rap a lot. So they tend to follow the negative stereotypes out of, I guess, not being accepted as much as the light skin. So they get the bad rap, and then the light skin, they're kind of put on a pedestal more.
Mhm.
So, everybody wants to buddy up with them and have them in their circle. So it kind of gives an issue between the two.
Okay. What role do you believe traditional media plays in promoting color stereotypes?
I mean, Hollywood does tend to favor putting light skinned women in more of a typical role of being, the nice one, the one that's the prettiest, and always make the dark skinned one look like the crazy one or the one that's emotionally unstable. So yeah, traditional media doesn't help it. But again, controversy creates cash. So, they're going to keep it going until us as a people stop talking about it.
Okay. What role do you believe colorism and just color discrimination in general plays in dating and marriage?
Um,
If you think it plays one.
it plays one, but it's probably not as big as it used to be. Like I
Mhm.
think because of this generation coming behind us, they're not looking at it as much. I think it's more people like I guess the people from the 90s, because that's really where it blew up. That's where media started creating shows like Living Single and Martin and all that. And that's where you saw you saw the
Dynamic.
dichotomy, yeah,
Oh,
the dichotomy of, the light skinned one was the successful one and she was the prettiest. Everybody went for her. The dark skinned one was always getting everybody told. And then, you know, with marriage, I mean, nowadays, I mean, I don't think it's as bad as it used to be because, if you're pretty enough, you're gonna hopefully find someone that you can be on par with. So I think, especially with these dating apps, so I don't think it's as big a problem as it used to be. But there's still problems that we got to hash out as a people.
okay. Um, how do you believe gender intersects with colorism?
I think it's more on the women's side, and you probably don't want me to say that because you're probably going to start yelling at me later. But I think it's more on
No, I agree, actually.
I think it's more on the female side. I mean, us males. I mean, I saw it in school. Like the dark skinned ones will go after the light skinned ones. They'll fight and then they'll become friends. Like right afterwards, they just basically tested. I think the women more. They base it off how much attention they're getting. So the dark skinned one's not getting enough attention. Like the light skinned one, they're gonna go try to fight her, cut her hair. I seen a girl get her hair burned in a chemistry class. I saw them put gum in her hair. So it's like I said, it's more the women than us. But like I said, we gotta. That's us men. We also have to kind of help destroy that and build more relationships with both sides and show both sides. You're pretty the way you are. You just got to accentuate what makes you you and your uniqueness, and stop worrying so much about how you came out.
Yeah, but men definitely contribute a lot to
We do. I mean, we
color.
do favor, prettier women that might be a little more lighter than the dark skinned one. But again, we have to also say, as a dark skinned woman, you're pretty. I
It's
mean, a little
funny
bit of
that you
encouragement
said,
goes a long way.
huh?
A little encouragement goes a long way. So,
It's it's funny that you said y'all prefer prettier light women.
well, I mean, you guys, it's always with everybody keeps talking about the European standard of beauty, and they tend to follow, the lighter shade. And, again, with the media, that did play a role, but again, it's our choice. So we have to set the standard. We got to say it's everybody or nobody.
Okay. Um, who do you believe colorism is institutionalized? Does it affect socioeconomic status, um, criminal justice system, job status, etc.?
You mean in terms of who goes far and who doesn't?
Um, yeah, or who gets lesser sentences? Who, etc. Yeah.
That would be more of a race thing. I don't think that's a colorism thing, because we do commit a lot more crime than other people, and we do get the harsher sentences. I don't think your skin tone is gonna make it a difference, because they're just gonna look at your race first. So I don't think that's a colorism issue.
Well, actually, it is.
Hmm.
So with as far as women, lighter skinned women are receive lesser sentences than dark skinned women. Darker skinned people or people with more Afrocentric features in general are more likely to get harsher sentences. In a study conducted with job interviews, a light skinned black man controlled for like degree and experience is more likely to get a job than a dark skinned black male. Um, with beauty ads, you're least likely to see dark skinned women on those ads.
Hmm.
Suspension risk, dark skinned girls are more likely to get suspended from school. So a lot of people think that colorism just comes down to like, oh, it's just preference or just dating, but it actually has like, even with socioeconomic status, lighter skinned people are more likely to be affluent. So, I mean, there's
Hmm.
like real life, real world, consequences to society's, stereotypes of dark skinned people.
Right. But wouldn't that
So,
be more of an attitude based assumptions?
what be attitude based assumption?
Well, not to be funny, but like I said before, since dark skinned people don't get as much attention, they tend to lash out more, and they tend to be of the angriest part of our society. And don't you think that kind of contributes to how people view them? So their attitudes of other people are kind of swayed towards that.
Are you asking? So, are you asking? Okay, so, huh?
Okay, so basically, like, okay, you know how we said that light skinned women, they get more attention and things like that.
Okay.
Like, don't you think that maybe if dark-skinned women kind of adopted that, then maybe their perception would change a little bit? So all these socioeconomic and political and media-based assumptions and stereotypes that they have would start to go away, maybe change their perception. They would get a lot more opportunities, and like you said, maybe end those harsher sentences, maybe get better opportunities in the workplace. I think a lot of it in this world is for you to get somewhere. I mean, you could be the smartest person, but if you have a crappy attitude, people are going to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with them. And they tend to look at dark skinned people and think automatically they have a crappy attitude. So I don't want to deal with it.
I mean, I don't think that dark-skinned women getting more attention would change that. If you go back to maybe if you can like undo slavery, Jim Crow, all that, you might be able to root out the, you know, psychological aspect of it. But um, when you have a dark skinned black man and a light skinned black man, and the light skinned black man is more likely to get the job than the darker skinned black man, I don't think that that really has anything to do with attitude. As far as with prison sentences, if we're both doing crimes, I don't really think that has anything to do with attitude either. I guess you could argue that darker skinned women have a worse attitude, and that might affect.
Yeah, but like I said before, that's a stereotype.
I'm saying,
No, I understand you're saying more of the attitude part. It's not really going to help on with a man, but maybe with the woman, yeah, it might help. I'm just saying that maybe the attitude doesn't always work.
Do you think dark skinned women have attitudes?
I think a lot of them, they project that because, like I said, they don't get as much attention as maybe someone my skin tone or someone lighter. They're not getting that much attention, so they feel like they're not being heard enough. So they kind of tend to lash out more, and it comes off as such. I mean, I grew up in the '90s, so I saw it a lot. It may not be as prevalent as it was today, but back then it was. You you saw that in school. You saw that on the street. People used to say you get it with a light skinned woman. You're like, oh, you got a light skin upgrade. I mean, and then they pass it down to their children, and then they continued it. I mean, now, like I said, it's getting a little better, but it's not where it should be. We're supposed to all be one, regardless of the color.
I don't think that's true. Um, it's possible that if a woman is more vocal and she's dark skinned, I mean, you automatically assign her as having an attitude.
Exactly.
I don't think dark skinned women are more attitudey than, for lack of a better word, than any other women. I don't know. But um, if you're speaking about in school, I've spoke to a lot of women who were bullied in school, who were um, harassed in school, who were mistreated in school. And if you thought maybe some of them had an attitude, it's because, it may be because of how some of them were treated in school. But if I would say overall, no, I don't think there's any attitude difference. And I don't think a change of attitude would change society's view of dark skinned women. If you meet there's a lot of black men, you meet a few dark skinned women, and now all dark skinned women are, and even those dark skinned women you met probably weren't even as, I just feel like a dark skinned woman doesn't have to do much to be labeled aggressive or mean or whatever else.
No, I understand what you're saying, but again, that's your opinion. It's my opinion. I mean, other people might disagree or agree, but you know, like I said, I mean, another problem is I think a lot of us Black people, since we don't have fathers in the home, we have a lack of, affirming that we're just fine the way we are. So, I I mean, a lot of those attitudes aren't stamped out before we leave the house. So we're listening to the world tell you you're this, that, and the third, and you kind of take on that, and you say, well, maybe I'm just what that is, so I'm gonna give them what they want. And there's no one reining it in and say, listen, you don't have to be that. Just be yourself. If they don't like you, then they don't like you. Move on. There's someone out there there's going to be a set of people that are going to like you.
Well, better self-esteem won't change colorism.
We could, because then
How?
because then at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter what you are. Someone's
Yeah,
going
but
to say,
colorism isn't about my personal opinion on myself. It's about the real life implications of a light skin preference. So me feeling better about myself won't. How will that change that?
because if you feel better about yourself, no one can tell you anything. You're not listening to someone else say, you're this. You're like, okay, I don't care who you think I look like or who I act like or who I belong to. I'm me. If you don't like me, then hey, there's a door, you can go.
But how
I
would
think,
that change, like the prison sentence thing, the suspension thing? How would that change all that? My attitude.
okay, if you grow up in the hood, you're more than likely to go to jail, right?
Hmm. I mean, I don't know the statistics behind that, but okay, I'll say
Oh,
for blacker. Okay,
you're 19 times more likely to end up in prison
okay.
coming from the hood. If we had a stronger community where colorism and discrimination and racism weren't as talked about as it is today, number one, colorism would be like, okay, it's there, but I don't care. Just like you have white folks that know there's affluent white folk, middle class, and rednecks. They understand. They associate with who they associate based on common things. And they move through their life as such. The things that we worry about don't help us. It just keeps us divided. So when I said self-esteem, if we had more affirmation at home, like I said, that we are beautiful just the way we are, and we don't need all these cosmetic things, and we have to do this, that, and third, or work twice as hard, I think we would produce a better crop of people that when someone does bring up the issue of colorism, we're we're like, okay, that's great. That's a great stereotype. I'm not like that. So now here I am. This is what I bring to the table. If you want to work with me, cool. Let's go work. If not, hey, go find someone that's for you. But I think we let colorism, we let it shape our social lives way too much. And
Mm,
it starts permeating into our real lives. And then now we can't see the difference between, see that we're not that different. Because there's no reason why we should be worrying about a dark skinned celebrity being with a light skinned person. But you could go on the shade room and there's like 15,000 comments.
I think you see it as easy to, or something that should be ignored because it just doesn't have real life as consequences for you. So you think that it should be
Well,
not
maybe I'm a
as.
little bit biased. Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but maybe I'm a little bit biased because my family's from Jamaica and I have all shades in my family. So
Yeah,
maybe
Jamaica
I'm seeing,
actually has the Caribbean countries actually have a big problem with colorism as well.
they do, but I guess from my family's perspective, we have all colors on the spectrum. So maybe I'm seeing it from a biased point of view. We don't have that problem. But yeah, I understand Jamaica has their problem with bleaching, and the British and the Chinese are like the top echelon people. So, like I said, maybe I'm seeing it from a biased view, but I think if you could take that model of everybody in different shades cohabiting and living together, I apply that elsewhere. I mean, maybe some problems would be stamped out, but again, I'm just looking at it from a biased point of view.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, but even us changing our viewpoint of each other, I mean, white colorism is a thing as well. White people prefer lighter skinned black people. So, I mean, there's that problem as well.
Yeah, but
So,
we have to fix ours first. I mean, I
well,
keep
they're in
like
control of most of the
can't
institutions.
worry
So
about what white people are doing.
I know, but they're in control of most of the institutions that we,
That's true.
use. So I just feel like my thing is that just like self-esteem and like feeling better about ourselves is going to do nothing about the real life implications of colorism. It might change, I guess, how we feel about it, but I just don't think self-esteem is going to do anything about the system as a whole. But I mean,
Well, the system can't control you if you don't allow it to. And colorism is one of their tools. Because like I said, you can go in a shade room. I could put up a picture right now of like, let's just say LeBron James after his game. He puts up a picture with like Kim Kardashian. I get 15,000 comments on there. And he was just taking a picture with her.
it
But
seems like you think people hate on like the whole black and light skin dynamic, but you also can put up a picture of a black woman, a dark skinned black woman, and there's a lot of hate. So on the shade room as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is hate towards that, then I feel like maybe you have to look at the hate that is given originally and
Right, but like I
why.
said before too, it's our generation that exploded it.
And I don't think so. I think this colorism is started with slavery.
It
So
did start with slavery, but what I mean is, like when you brought up the media from the 80s and 90s, that's the period where you had the divide between the light and the dark. That's where it started and became the apex of where we're at now. Like I said, you could go through the media, you could go through print, you could go through even video games and things like that, and rap videos. They would always have the lighter skinned women in there. I mean, they went after Tyrese years ago because he wouldn't have dark skinned women in his video.
what do you think about that?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's his choice. That if he wants to produce a video like that, I have no reason to say he can't do that or not. I mean, my choice is I just won't watch it if I feel like it's a problem. But I think if we didn't put so much onus and so much effort into calling these people out for doing this, I mean, yeah, you can have a few people like, yo, do it. I don't think you're doing, but you know what? It's your show. Go do it. It's like we want to change the perception of people that maybe don't want to change or they're set in their opinion. I think when you tell someone and you try to put someone in a corner, they're going to lash out. So I think also with colorism, we're trying to force people to think a certain way and it doesn't work. You kind of let that happen organically, which is why I said maybe if the attitudes and these stereotypes of dark skinned women started changing for the better, maybe we can eliminate that part because that's a huge part of it and stop thinking about color so much and think about the person, like Dr. King said. But again, that has to be a generational thing because right now it's our generation that's fueling it. And like I said, I at least have hope that the younger generation isn't doing that as much as we used to, even though it's still out there. But I think it's going to take at least 2 to 3 more generations for it to not be as big a problem as it is now.
You just sound a little complacent because if you think people shouldn't talk about it and you think that people calling out rappers who say they're not going to use dark skinned women, people are tired of being discriminated against. People are tired of being marginalized. So talking about it is how you get it to end. And so I don't think to say, excuse me, sorry, to say we wouldn't put so much stock in it. I mean, people put stock in stuff because it hurts. To one, if you never see yourself anywhere. On top of that, someone comes out and says, "I don't want dark skinned women in my video." I feel like it's very easy to. I mean, you have little girls who can hear, no dark skinned people in my videos, or you have high schoolers who watch these videos and don't see themselves reflected in them. So it's imperative that people speak out about it. It's not if you don't speak out about something, it's not going to change. You use Dr. King, for example, and he spoke out. I mean, there was a lot of people who weren't speaking out at his time. He spoke out. So, I mean, that's the thing. You have to speak out. Otherwise, and I
How
mean,
you speak out?
yeah, huh? And you
You know,
you keep the attitude thing. I just feel like that's maybe your perception of
mm-hmm.
darker skinned black women. I don't think that they have attitudes. I think maybe you think that they have attitudes. So
Well, again, it's based on my observations of being aware of stuff like this for the last quarter century. I mean, I've been around it. So, again, that's just my opinion about it.
so you would say from your, observations, you've been around light skinned black women, you've been around dark skinned black women, and dark skinned black women have attitude.
They're more aggressive, yes. I don't see it as much because, like I said, I grew up in an era where it was broadcast every night on TV, and it was broadcast in videos, and it was broadcast on the street. Dark skinned women in the 90s and the early 2000s were way more aggressive than the light skinned ones. And the light skinned ones were just trying to dodge getting their butt kicked every day. They were just trying to fit in. Like I said, it may not be I'm sure you're younger than me, so you probably don't see it as much. But back then, it was bad.
Okay. Well, that to me that just sounds like a narrative. It doesn't really sound like the truth. I
And
don't
like
think
I
the
said, you can
truth
look
is
this
that
up.
all.
You could look it up on YouTube.
If you
Inshallah,
look
I'll
up
tell you
on
the night.
YouTube, if you look up, color things on YouTube, what you mostly see is dark skinned people talking about growing up dark skinned. So, in the struggle, I found almost no videos of lighter skinned people talking about, growing up, the issues that they had growing up. So, and I'm not saying they didn't happen. I'm sure they did happen, but it's just you saying, dark skinned girls are aggressive and all the dark skinned girls beat up the light skinned girls. It's just kind of like a tired narrative that we hear like over and over again. You talked about watching TV. It's like maybe is that something you got from TV? Because I just don't think that's true.
I just think TV is part of it. I still had to live life, and I've seen this in school. So, I mean, again, that's just how I grew up. Everybody grows up differently.
Now that you're older, is that what you see as well?
No, I don't see it as much. That's why I said I at least praise this generation. At least they're not putting too much stock in color like
I'm
they
saying, do
are
you
now.
see that darker skinned women are more aggressive than lighter skinned women now that you're older?
No, I think they're more now trying to forge their own legacies.
They're trying to what?
They're trying to forge their own legacies amidst the stereotypes. At least I will say that I applaud dark skinned women more now. I mean, I do see the ones still with attitude, but I
Like
see
you
a
see the
lot of
light
them
skinned
now.
ones with attitudes too, though, right?
Hmm?
Like you see the light skinned ones with attitudes too,
Yeah,
right?
I see them too because
Right.
they're trying. Again, the media, like you said, media does have a big influence. So I'm seeing now the light skinned girls are starting to be like more like your Cardi B's and things like that. They're trying to force this narrative like they're awesome and things like that, which is kind of I need to chill a little
Okay,
bit.
I'm sorry. I do want to move on, but let me just ask you
Mm-hmm.
something. So, from what you just said, dark skinned women are trying to change from being ratchet or change their, what you thought was inherently aggressive. But light skinned women, on the other hand, are trying to be something they're not when they're acting more ratchet or like Cardi B. So, I'm kind of confused about that.
Okay. Well, now you have more dark skinned females representing in
Hmm.
Hollywood in the media, Kerry Washington, Viola Davis, Oprah, things like that. So you guys now have totems. I know that's not the right word for it, but you have symbols of dark skin excellence. So you're seeing more women gravitating towards those people. Now you're seeing the light skinned girls, because they've been given attention so much, they're starting to follow back in the 80s and 90s. Now you're seeing them trying to bring it now, but now you're seeing them doing way too much for attention. Because like you look at people like Black China and Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, they're like doing things that a normal woman wouldn't do.
A
And you
normal
see
light skinned woman or a normal woman?
normal woman.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if it's light, but it seems like their fans are mostly light skinned women because they see themselves in them because they're black. So they're like, okay, she's accepted as black and she's doing this. I can do this too. But now people are starting to say, you know what? Yeah, I need to chill. We're not rocking with them. So if you want to do that, you stay over there. We stay with the chicks that want us to build with and want us for who we are. So I will say that the dark skinned women are at least making tremendous strides into changing their image. And I think if we get more dark skin representation, then we, like I said before, we can end this colorism thing.
Yeah, or people
But then again, like I said,
dark
also
skinned
has to do
women.
with men too. The men have to help out with that too.
But I don't know how men will help out if before even talking to a dark skinned woman, they just perceive her as going to be somebody that's going to have an attitude. So
Well, I'm raising a black daughter, and I'm gonna make sure to enforce that you're not what your shade is, because she's about my complexion, maybe a little lighter. I'm gonna make sure she knows that colorism doesn't even exist in her world. It's about what she has up here.
In her world, colorism exists on the planet Earth, so it would be better
exists, but
probably teach her to be a fight against colorism, right?
Right, but I'm gonna make sure it doesn't define who she is. Or if someone says, "Oh, well, you're that shade, you have to be that shade." Like, okay, you can assume that, and then she keeps it moving. I think, like I said, if we don't bring attention to it as much, it goes away.
No, actually, when we don't bring attention to it, it festers. It gets. That's why we have to.
Well, when I mean, if we don't bring attention to it, yeah, we need to talk about it, but we need to talk about it as a finite thing. It has to, when we talk about it and we bring it to its maximum, we have to be able to say we're putting it in Pandora's box and we're getting rid of it. Because if we don't do that, it's gonna evolve into something else. The next thing you know, we're gonna start shunning, like they did in slavery. We're gonna start shunning light-skinned people again.
They shunned light-skinned people during slavery?
Yeah. When Massa had the light-skinned kid, got to stay in the house and then eventually got to be slaves. They didn't accept them in the field.
Okay, so I feel like that's a little rewrite of history. Light-skinned people didn't want to be around dark-skinned people during slavery or after slavery. After slavery, especially, they segregated themselves from dark-skinned people.
That's what they just said.
Yeah, okay, but you said it like shun means like the dark-skinned people didn't allow them to be around them.
No, there were some that said that whoever was, remember, the field Negro didn't really associate with the house Negro.
But that's because the house Negro was better than the field Negro.
Right. And that was usually the master's kid that he had with a black one, with a dark-skinned black woman, correct?
Yeah, but my point was just that they weren't shunned by the dark-skinned slaves.
Well, maybe shun was the wrong word. Maybe they weren't.
What do you believe is the difference between colorism and preference? Is there one? Is there a difference?
Well, preference is more of a personal thing. Colorism is more of a broad thinking. Like if I like Asian women, that's my preference. If I'm liking Asian women to spite a black woman, that's colorism. That's messed up. And then you see the latter more than the former. Because even like if I put up a picture with me and a white woman, people are gonna come in and be like, "Oh, you only liking that white woman because she's easy." No, it's my preference.
As far as like intraracially,
Oh, you mean like light skinned women?
Or yeah, light skin, dark skin, black skin. Dark skin men, black, like whatever. Like as far as just in the black community, what do you think is the difference between colorism and preference? I do see your point about dating outside.
Well, in our community, I think it's a little more linked than it should be, because you see more men darker want to get with a light skinned woman, and a lot of them say they don't want their kids to go through what they went through. But again, that's not really a guarantee because you don't know how that kid's gonna come out.
Yeah.
A kid could come out just like you. It just depends. That's more of a biology thing, but it's more linked in the Black community because we are the same, but we're also different, which sucks because it shouldn't matter. It should be more of a preference based. Yeah, I'm with her because she knows how to tend the house. She knows how to work with a man. She knows how to balance a budget, things like that. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm marrying her because she ain't got no flaws on her because she's light skinned. She's flawless, or she's dark skinned because she's whatever trait you want to use. It should just be on what's on the inside of the person, not with the outside. But again, the world looks at you on the outside first before they even get to know you.
Okay. All right. How do you believe gender intersects with colorism?
I feel like I answered
I think
this.
you touched on it a little earlier about it being more.
I think well, like I said, I think it's more on the female side than the male side, and we got to kind of correct that. But I think because men don't have a lot of say in our community, that sit down and have people actually analyze things. Because in our community, we tend to listen to the women more. So whatever agenda they want to push, it's going to be that. So I think if the women can come together and stop worrying about the color, we can open the bridge to have men come in, and then we can actually sit down and really have the conversation. But I think it's more the women have to start it.
Okay, so I do want to comment on that. Mm-hmm. So if men are if you're talking about in just like if we're talking about just dating, so in my way of how do you believe gender intersects with colorism? I would say in dating, dark-skinned Black men are preferred for dating and marriage, and light-skinned Black women are preferred for dating and marriage. If you're talking about in like general life, light skin, as far as with like school, etc.
Well, yeah, that's all. Well, dating apps also exposed that back in 2014. Because like dark skinned men were number 2, but dark skinned women were at the bottom.
Yeah. So
so that dynamic was that kind of opened up the floodgates to these conversations.
Yeah. So but then you have like in life you just have lighter skinned people preferred across the board. But you said that it had to start with women. So as far as with dating and marriage, men are the usual like initiators, especially in general. They are the usual, or they're supposed to be.
We don't marry what we like.
Huh?
We're gonna marry what we like.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that men who specify that you're gonna marry who you like, sure, but if you don't like a certain woman based on her skin color, I feel like this is way like men. This is a big men issue. Like you said, women need to solve it amongst themselves, but a lot of the issues that women have amongst themselves is because of stuff men say out loud about dark-skinned women and compared to light-skinned women. So a lot of the issue would definitely start with them. Even think about a marriage study that was conducted a little while back with more affluent Black men. I think it was 23% of them. I want to give you the accurate number. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, 50 with high status husbands, 55% married light skinned women, while 23% married dark skinned women. So this is definitely a men's issue as well. Men's preference that is usually rooted in colorism is makes this a lot of their issue. Now, to say you prefer light skin, okay, some could argue that's okay to say, but usually these reasons behind this preference are colors. So, I mean, it's a lot of the men.
The way they grew up.
Hmm?
The way they grew up.
It could be the way they grew up. I wouldn't argue against that, but I mean,
I
it's
mean, a
what
lot
they
of us
say.
don't elevate our thinking, so we just hang on to, the negatives a lot, and that kind of shapes our decisions in life. So, like I said, I mean, yes, it's a man issue, but it would be nice to see the women also listen, sis, I know you're different from me, but let's rap. Let's try to end this. If we could see that, even if it doesn't, even if it fails, at least we'll have somewhere to start. I feel like we don't have anywhere to start because that issue is going to break down everything as we're talking.
So you need to see light skinned women and dark skinned women talk about colorism together in order to, or you think that's
Yeah,
what other people need to see?
without the name calling, without the stereotypes, and really sit down and have an honest conversation.
But it's happened. I've talked to light skinned women. I mean, other people have talked to light skinned women, but dark skinned women have been speaking about this. Why I don't understand why they would need a light skinned person to piggyback them in order for their what they're saying to be real and true.
Because maybe they don't understand it.
I'm saying, why would a man need to hear a light skinned woman say
No,
it?
I'm saying maybe the light skinned woman doesn't understand it.
There are many light skinned women who understand colorism. There are some who don't, but they're
No,
from
I don't mean colorism general. I mean coming from a dark skinned woman. I don't think maybe they truly understand it.
some of them do, but some of them don't care to understand it. But there are light skinned women that I have talked to about the subject who are hip. I mean, I don't think I think a lot of this does have to do with the men. Um, I don't think a dark skinned woman should have to explain colorism to a light skinned woman. If a light skinned woman has heard a man say to her, um, and this came from someone I was talking to, Isabella. You'll see her interview. She told me specifically herself, she's a mixed girl, that men say to her all the time, they like her because she's mixed. They don't like dark skinned women because they're ratchet. So this is what y'all are saying to these women. So why should we have to tell light skinned women about colorism? Why don't one they do the work? Some of them. This is not all light skinned women. There are light skinned women who do work in colorism. I mean, Alice Walker coined the term colorism. So there are light skinned people who do the work and who want to know more. But as far as the ones who don't or who don't care, I don't think it's a dark skinned woman's job to, you know, get her there. And so my main point is that a lot of this is men pumping this into the women. So I mean, these music videos, or I even saw a boy tweet just last night that he was looking for a light skinned woman for his music video. This is not the first time stuff like that has happened. So a lot of this is men. The world is men. I mean, the world is mostly dominated by men. So this is definitely a men's issue as well. Mostly, I will argue.
Well, I guess respect to all that. I guess again, it'd have to start at home. We gotta we have to have more self affirmation in the house and more affirmation from our parents, both of them. And I think that would go a long way also to bridging that gap because I know for a fact if you have a father in your house, he's not gonna bring up the issue of colorism, even if he's dark skinned and his wife is light skinned. He's not gonna push that on his kids because he understands. So I think
Actually, that's not true. I just saw a girl tweet. She's like a brown skin to dark skin girl. That her dad always says, "I married your mom because she's light skinned." So these people,
well,
okay, but she said it never happened. So I was just giving you an anecdote.
that's fine. I mean, but generally, you won't see that happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but generally, your father's not going to push colorism on his kid, especially his daughter.
Which,
That's unfair. That would be unfair to her.
but a lot of colorism from a lot of the books I read and from the people I talked to, a lot of colorism does come from families. It comes from dads too. So I mean, I just feel like it's you're like attributing it to self-esteem and feeling better about yourself, and it's just way bigger than that. I feel like you keep saying the whole, self-esteem thing, and my self-esteem is not going to change colorism. And for women that are a little bit darker than me, whose experience is harsher than mine, their self-esteem is not going to change colorism. I mean, colorism is rooted. It's not going to change. For our self-esteem is so. I don't.
So you don't
I
think
understand what you're
dark
saying.
feel bad when someone puts them down?
Of course they feel bad, but what I'm saying is that having higher self-esteem is not going to change the institution of colorism. Having high self-esteem is not going to change men's preference for lighter skinned women. That's what having high self-esteem is not going to change. So I could have high self-esteem all day long. My sisters could have high self-esteem all day long, but so, I mean, I get what you're saying about affirmation. That might help with like bullying at school, maybe. I don't know. But as far as colorism as a whole, I just don't think that self-esteem is what's holding it back. And I feel like there's a little bit of gap between like men and the issue of colorism. I don't know why, but
Again, like I said, we're men. We're attracted to whatever's pretty out there. I mean, I've seen plenty of men get married to dark skinned women, so it's not like we're just avoiding them altogether.
but at least likely was my point.
Yeah, I mean, we're as a unit, we're all not getting married anyway, so we're just hooking up and things like that. So,
But when we are talking about marriage, dark
mhm.
skinned women are least likely to get married.
I mean, those numbers haven't been broken down based on color, but I would assume a lot of us are marrying someone of our own shade more than someone of a different shade. I mean,
But that's not
I
true
don't.
because darker skinned men prefer lighter skinned women.
They prefer it, but are they doing it?
I mean, you
They
could.
could just that could just be a poll saying which one would you pick. It doesn't necessarily mean if he meets the right dark skinned woman, he's not going to marry her. It's
You
just
really think there isn't a light skin preference in dating and marriage?
I didn't say that. I'm saying
Uh,
that just because he said that on the poll doesn't mean that's how he's going to move in life. That's what I'm saying.
but that is how people move in life. So, what is your comment on that? I feel like denial does not change the issue.
I'm not denying anything. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying the way a man thinks and the way a man speaks, it depends on the situation. Like I could say one
Okay.
thing, but I could be thinking something else. I might just say that just to appease you.
Hmm.
It just depends on, again, the situation and what's presented to me. If my wife was dark skinned, hey, boom, I'm gonna marry her. If she has all the right qualifications. But again, like I said, the first thing we see is outward beauty, and if your stereotype is how you're gauged, yeah, I might back away from it. They tend to go more to light skin because they were perceived to be more docile, they were prettier, and guys gravitated to that more.
Were they
Like
prettier?
again, it's subjective, depends on it. But again, you had the media that said that the light skinned black woman was pretty. So we saw that growing up and we gravitated towards that. But like I said, at least this generation now is not so hung up on that. They'll find whoever is pretty, it doesn't matter.
That's not true. I don't think that's true. That they'll find whoever's pretty, it doesn't matter. It's still a light skin preference in our generation. And in my study specifically, it's mostly millennials. So I feel like I know
Right.
that
Well,
it's
I'm
a
a
light skin
millennial.
preference.
I'm saying the generation after us.
Okay, so you're saying that you think the generation after us,
Those are the
they
ones that are not putting so much preference on color because they saw what we went through and what our parents have gone through, and they're like, I don't want to do that. It's kind of like what you're seeing now with the political movement. You're seeing a lot more younger kids saying, you know what, I'm gonna be more moderate than Democrat. So the dynamic changes. It just depends on the generation. Like our parents' generation was, the hippie generation. Now we're the technology generation and the media generation. They're now going to be the moving the technology further, and they're the social media age, the second half of it. So if they change their thinking, this will just be a footnote in history.
um just have a few more questions. Do you believe you have ever been discriminated against on the basis of your skin tone?
I mean, I had a white guy call me N when I was 16, but
Call you what?
overall, I had a white guy call me the N word to my face when I was 16. But overall, no. Maybe it's because I had a normal name
What's a
that they did.
normal name?
Well, my name's Michael. I didn't have one of those, typical black names that people associate with black people. So they didn't know who I was until I came in, and they were like, "Oh, okay, he might be something," or "Let me see what he's talking about." Because I've done human resources, and I was told if they had one where names, put it in the second pile, and we'll review it again. But I think that also kind of hurts us a little bit. Not to get off subject, it kind of hurts us a little bit, but overall, I haven't had a problem with discrimination. I mean, it's their decision if they want to do business with me. I can't change their thinking except show them my qualifications and show them why I'm the right man for the job.
Yeah, I know about the name studies. I don't usually put my real name on stuff because due to knowing about those things, but that's you can I guess you can level the playing field by not putting your actual, which is very sad, by not
Yeah.
putting your actual name on stuff. But I mean, you gotta think about when you get to the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Um, so my last two questions is who is responsible for breaking the cycle of colorism and do you believe it'll ever end?
It's everyone's responsibility. We, us men, have our own fight to contend with on the subject. Women have their own fight to continue with the subject and contend with the subject, and we have to be united in that fight. It can't be you just saying that just so you can grab some brownie points. You got to be either with it or you just be one of those people that wanted to continue because it makes your Instagram blow up.
And do you
So
believe it'll ever end?
I think it can end. It's just not going to end with this generation. I think it's going to end after we're dead and gone. Because I think by the time we come around in the 22nd century, everybody's going to be almost looking the same, or everybody's going to be acting the same. So right now, us as Black people, we have to deal with the hands that we're dealt with, and it's incumbent on us to make sure we don't follow the negative stereotypes that the entire world views us as. And I think that would go a long way for us to change the perception for our children, our children's children. But again, it's got to start with us.
Okay. All right, Mike. Well, I really appreciate having this conversation with you today.
No
I
problem.
appreciate your time.
And
And
if you finish with that, let me know because I'm starting a podcast next month. So you can bring your results on. I'll give you a platform and you can go out and maybe revisit this subject again.
yeah,
Because my co-host, dark skinned woman from Africa. So
oh wow, that sounds great.
yeah,
Definitely,
so
we'll keep in touch.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'll
because
send
she's
you
getting
this.
at me when I'm talking like this. So
Huh?
you know. gets at me when I talk like this, so YouTube can gang up on me.
Okay, yeah, sounds good to me.
No
All
problem.
right, guys, this is Sean again and Mike with All Things Black. Thank you guys for watching. Bye, Mike.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.